Hello YouTubers, this is Music Soar here, and this is my number 50 in the 50 greatest albums of all time, in my opinion. Now this is my opinion, so if there's an album you don't like where it's placed, or where certain albums are in the list, or if you think certain album doesn't belong on the list, feel free to comment down below or whatever. Be sure to like, subscribe, do what you guys do. And yeah, so the first album I'm going to talk about, as you can read in the title down below, is the Deep's album Psychedelic Moods. Now, this album was very weird, let's just put it that way. Weird, you'll love it, it's a way of life. But you think about it this way, it was the Wikipedia information on this is very thin on this band, or even on this album. The only ones it really mentioned is Rusty Evans. He's the only confirmed member of this band. All the rest are all we don't know. So, Psychedelic Moods. 1966. The genres are folk rock, garage rock, some said proto-punk, psychedelic rock, of course. And it just, what to say about it? It was released October 1966 by the band The Deep, who was a band out of Philadelphia. And it was only a short-lived thing due to the fact that this band was only a studio band. They didn't tour or anything, but they did have some good songs on this album that I really like. The signature song on this album has to be Pink Ether. It is probably the best song on this album. Now, if you're looking for a hidden gem on the album, I think Trip number 76 is a very good one, or you could even go as far to say Colored Dreams, I believe is the name of it. But there is some good songs on this record. Now, the criteria I'm breaking this down in as is influential, how influential the album is. Is it a landmark record? And how do you feel while listening to it? Which I know this is a very subjective thing to ask, but for me it's what I throw in here. And first off, is this album a landmark album? Yes. And some may ask, what the fuck, after listening to this, but hear me out, hear me out. This album is the first album to feature psychedelic in the name title. It beat out the Blue Magoos by a little bit, and beat out 13th Floor Elevators for the first band to use psychedelic in the name of their album. And you could also say, okay, influence for this record. Was there an influence? Well, that can be debated if it's influential or not. I could really call it probably stripped down raw psychedelic, with very minimalistic psychedelic with folkiness in it, and it just, that's all I can say about that. Going back to Landmark, there's one thing I forgot. This is the first album to have, or not sure if it's the first, but it's the first one, earliest I came across, a not recommended for children thing on the album. And that's very weird to see. Like, you see it nowadays everywhere. There's parental advisory stickers on pretty much everything, because everything offends somebody. But then you go to, how does it feel listening to this? Now, I'll use the word weird, and I'll use the word weird very loosely, because there's many different varying degrees of weird. You have just normal, oh, that just sounded weird listening to it. There's sort of middle of the road, okay, that's a weird, but I like it. And then there's just full-blown fucking weird. And this is a full-blown fucking weird album. No hands down about it. It's fucking weird in some sections. They did some really weird things on this album, but what did this remind me of? A lot of Captain Beefheart is what I got a lot of what Captain Beefheart could have been if he didn't go somewhat rhythm and blues and all that. That's just what I feel listening to this. It reminds me a lot of Beefheart. But this album as a whole, it's not a bad record. For this part of the list, I will say, okay, it can fit here. This is, I think, from about number 50 to number 30 in anybody's list can always be open to interpretation. Very much so. Even down to number 20. You could even go from 50 to 20. That could be a list of a gazillion bands you could put in there, or albums you could put in there. This one just happened to be it, and I thought this would be the perfect way to start this off, because the deep psychedelic moods is a good record, and if someone goes and listens to it because I said so, or because they've seen this video, hey, more power to you. I'm not guaranteeing you'll like it, but it's just not everybody's cup of tea. But yeah, that's my view. This is number 50 in the 50 greatest albums of all time. The next one I'll probably have up either later tonight or tomorrow. This is Music Soar. Peace.